Welcome everyone to Startup Shuk. We are joined today with Nadav Kemper. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah.
Nadav Kemper. And he's the CEO and co-founder of Quack AI.
Nice to meet you. Nice to be here. I know the building. I know the university. Back in the days, it was the IDC. So great to be here.
Right, you're a pro. Usually I have to correspond with them, my guest, and hey, are you in the gate? I'll come to the gate. I'll bring you inside. But you're a pro. You already. Where are you? Are you in the second floor? Done.
No. I give some kisses and hugs to the guardman in the
You're in
the gate. Yeah, definitely.
Cool. So Nadav, I'm very interested in Quack AI, especially it works with CX, and I'm also trying to build something in customer relations in AI. Obviously, these days everything is in AI. But I want to go back a bit to you and to listen about your history, your story. Who is Nadav Kemper? Who is he like when he's young, and what's his hobby? What does he like to do?
Wow, interesting. How young?
How young? Let's go back as you want. Maybe as far as you remember.
Well, I think it's important only for the reference of, I don't know, maybe the international school or whatever, people from Reichman University. I was born in Venezuela and did Aliyah with my parents and family when I was 3 years old. And we kind of came to Israel, fresh start from nowhere, from a country that was kind of, destroyed. Which is a small city. I don't know if it's even a city, like a big village in the center of Israel. And all my life I've been between going to school because that's what I need to do, but not having any fun or studying anything, like, a problematic kid, you can say. And between being in the Israeli Scouts, it's like the biggest youth organization. I've been since I've been around 9 years old and up until a few years ago even. And, the Israeli mentality of, very Zionist family, being, part of the Israel community, Shoam community, being in the Scouts, all my youth, growing to become a soldier, a fighter in the Israeli. And I never thought I would be an entrepreneur, right? I never, when I was a kid, I dreamed about being a pilot in the military. And that was my dream. And when I joined to the army, I started at the pilot academy, Kurs Tais in Hebrew. And then a few months later, I was kind of, you're not going to be a pilot, you need to go and find something else. And then I became like a fighter at Kfir. Combat unit, and did that for 3 years for all the military service. And then, the natural thing was for me to go back to the place I've spent, again, most of my time as a child in the Israeli Scouts. After the military, there are a lot of people who return to the Israeli Scouts as like guides and like youth guides and, different positions, which are in salary. You get a salary, but it's like very low. It's like, So that's my history between, coming to Israel, being in Shoam as a child, growing in the military, and post the military, going back to what I was, familiar with. That's my, basic story. And I think that the pivotal moment came in the IDC, basically. I started throughout the work at the youth organization at the Tzofim, started studying BA in communication in the IDC.
What led you to IDC right away?
So it wasn't right away. I started like every other Israeli at my age, post the military, started working, blah, blah, blah. Around 23 years old, I moved to Tel Aviv with partners, like we rented an apartment. And I started, looking for where to study. Why? Because that's what you do, right? You go to school, you go to the military, and then you go to study something. That's like the basics.
Did you had a chance to travel first around?
So not exactly. I was too deep into the work and to the things I did after the military. So I did like 1 month in Nepal, 1 month in Vietnam, like shorter trips, not like a 8-month South America trip like everyone. And it's weird because I'm from South America.
And you don't have to. You're from there. You're local.
Although I never visited South America. I was only 3 years old. So that's like crazy. Who knows, in the future, I'll probably have more time. So, again, around 23 years old, understanding that as as all of the people at my age, I need to kind of study, and it was kind of interesting. Like I said, okay, let's try it. And I started looking and exploring open days at a few universities. I think I went to around 5 or 6 between Beersheba and even Ariel and Tel Aviv, whatever, even Jerusalem. And it was like a trip. That was my trip, okay? I did a trip like to Beersheba and went to all the places, and kind of in every place found a friend who was already studying there and asked from him to kind of do me an introduction to the university, to whatever, to the campus. And kind of what moved, or what, was important for me, is to feel the vibes of the place, to come to the place and feel the motivation to study.
Right.
Because I'm not a big fan of studying anything. I wasn't like good at, high school, whatever, pre-high school and all.
So we're the same.
Yeah, and I never, even, and that was even, it's even harder than what I'm presenting now. Like I was in a special class. It's called Mabar for the ones in Israel who know. It's like a special program for high school students that the high school said that they can do like a full year course. Again, I don't know exactly how to pronounce or how to explain it in English, but it's like a limited high school program to do only the basics. So it was very like that part of my life was very different or very irregular than what my friends maybe, they went to school, they did all the special courses, it went for them easy peasy, and I like, what do I need to study? Like, I can't do it. I'm not successful at studying in school. I'm successful in doing other things, but I don't believe in school and in studying, formal studies. And then, I was looking for something different. And when I came to the IDC, I think it was the last open day I did throughout, a period of time. I went to a lot of places, and when I came here, it was different. Like I felt the vibes and the energies, and I remember I came and I registered to an open day in the business school because I said, okay, I don't know what I want to do when I will be, bigger. Mm-hmm. Let's study business and I'll do with that something. And then someone from the communication school kind of found me. I didn't know him before. And he asked me, you want me to do like an introduction to the school? Let me take you to the campus. Mm-hmm. Took me to the campus. We went to the studios. We went to the different floors. And I was amazed. I didn't believe that there is an opportunity to study in this place. Like, you see the studios, you see the classes, you see, is this where I will be doing like my next 3 years? And the answer was definitely yes. So that was what brought me to the IDC. And even then, my dream was to be an event producer. Like, that was my experience in the youth organization, doing some, logistics and doing events and trips over Israel. And again, when I was young, if you would ask me around 25 years old, what would you do? Like, what's your dream? Is to produce events and festivals. That's my dream. But after I started studying at the IDC, there were 2 courses in the first year, I think. One was the product management, introduction to product management, whatever, and product design and UX. And those 2 courses were the most mind-blowing for me, at least. And I got A grades on all the exams and works, and I had the biggest motivation to go to those courses, even if it's, 8 in the morning and I need to wake up 6:30, whatever. Those were the 2 ones that I never missed. First in line in the class, I was so attracted to it, and it was like a new world for me. Mm-hmm. I never thought like that. And again, all the rest of the courses, I would say, 15, 20 other courses I took, okay, generic. And that's okay. But those 2 kind of created, I think, the
spark in you.
And I think, again, entrepreneurship is something wider and bigger. It didn't started when I was 25 or 26 years old when I studied in the IDC. It started even before, when I was, I think, 12. Again, as I said, I never got into class and studied, but I did other things. Mm-hmm. I was the one leading the annual trip of the, not the high school, but the, when I was around 12 or 13, I was the one leading from our class the annual trip, planning everything, managing all the logistics, doing all of that. Like
At 12.
yeah, at 12 years old. And even before, at 9 years old, I was the one, we have like a Israeli holiday, wow, forgot the name because I'm speaking in
סבבה
English.
בעברית.
Lag BaOmer.
כן. With all the
Which,
fires and everything.
yeah, and you need to kind of 1 month before you go, when you take woods and you take like from everywhere, you kind of try to find materials to turn on the fire. And I was the one like, we will do that. And I managed the project and let's go 5 people here and there and kind of, do all of that like initiatives and kind of manage that. So I can say that from a very young age, I was always interested in doing things, doing new initiatives, even in my own. Like, I think it came, obviously, a big, part of it is from my parents. I think that the way we kind of were managing the day-to-day tasks in our house was, we had like things that my parents wanted for everyone to be part of. Laundry, cleaning the cars, like washing the cars, taking care of the garden, like a lot of things that as a child, like, and again, around 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, you're a child, you need to be in YouTube, right? We didn't have YouTube in those days, but I remember that was a big part of, I guess, what helped me and to understand, the initiatives or the ways to kind of take action, to be like an individual contributor to my family or to my house. That was something that my parents kind of created from when I was very young. And it started as part of the routines of every day, like a day to day. And then it became to be, okay, if I wash our car, let's wash our neighbor's car and take 20 shekels, whatever. And then let's open, it's like the classic story of open a lemonade lemonade stand in the park. And then I did, I think, and again, I'm remembering now, like as we speak, going back to the history of my life. And I remember around, I don't know, I was 13 years old. We were in the park near the house, around 5 kids, 6 kids with bicycles. And I opened like a course for fixing bicycles. Took the 8 years old, the 9 years old, everyone, and kind of made a group and let me guide you through how to fix your bicycles, how to whatever. And again, as now I see it and I understand that probably, it's a combination between who you are, like, your character, but also the motivation or the atmosphere that my parents kind of brought into that kid, whatever. And that was like the infrastructure for my entrepreneurship. And there are a lot of stories I can tell you about things I did over the history. And we started like from washing cars for neighbors, fixing bicycles for kids in the neighborhood, from having a business with one of my friends to deliver, like we did Walt like 20 years ago for the people in Shoam from a bakery. We kind of took orders before Shabbat, before Friday, for chalaz, for challah, like, the bread. Yeah. And then, like, they ordered around, 20, 30 people, and we did the delivery in Shoam from the bakery. That was like, today, I'm saying that's crazy. Like, we printed flyers with different pictures of bread, which I brought from Google. We put a price which was, 20% more than what the bakery did. And we said, you just need to order, 1 day before, and we bring the bread to your door.
How old were you back then?
17, 16. Like, we got a car, like the driving license, and we said we can do it.
Man.
That's fucking crazy. Like, where do you think about those kind of things? And I think, again, it was very natural for me to do those things. And again, after that, it became to be a party that we organized, like an event, when I was 18 years old in Savion, like, a city in the center. I took a garden of a friend of his grandmother, like an old house. We said, okay, let's invite people, let's charge 50 shekels, whatever. And we brought around 300 people to that party and multiply it by 50 shekels. And, a lot of things that I kind of now, when I digest and I understand what was the infrastructure, those are the things that probably became to be what I am or what I became to be as an entrepreneur. Going back to 25 and IDC, blah, 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 I wanted to be, an event festival producer again. But then I kind of got the spark of the product management, product design, UX, UI. I thought it would be the future. Like I literally felt in those days, I think it was around 2017, 2016, almost 10 years ago, like 8 years ago, I felt that this is the future. This is what I need. I don't need to go and study law or study, I don't know, a mathematical course in business school, whatever. If I'll study UX, UI, product design, product management, that's the future. I can change my life instead of being an event producer, which is still a dream in the future. Maybe I'll do it as a second career. I felt that was the right direction in those days, but I didn't have any how-tos or how to start even working in that space. My parents are not from that space. My friends are not from, Talpiot, 8200, whatever, like nothing. I don't have the network. Even in the IDC, okay, I have friends from the communication school, amazing, cool, but nobody was in that space, and I think it was very rare. At least for me, it was something very new, which I need to kind of, create from 0 to 1. Like Nadav, 0 to 1, becoming even a product manager. Like I'm not talking about an entrepreneur. That was, again, part of my infrastructure or my, my basics, like in Nadav. But even before I knew I want to be an entrepreneur, I needed to kind of understand what's the route for being. So I think, again, long story short, I became very, very interested, started listening into podcasts, reading about product management, whatever. And I think around the third year of my studies, I decided that I'm doing a second degree, not really a second degree because there isn't a second degree in that, in UX, UI design, product design. So I looked for the best school in Israel to study, took 1 year course, like 2 times a week, 2 days a week, 1 year, studied product design.
While you're studying in ITC?
I think the last year. It was while I studied, or I think maybe 1 year later. I don't remember exactly the dates, but it was the same time, like maybe the last year or something like that. And I decided, like, I thought in that moment that was the right thing to do because that was the most interesting course I took in the IDC. So if I can even amplify it and study it even deeper and wider, then let's do it. Basically, the teacher that I went to study was my teacher at the IDC of that course. So that was very natural for me to kind of,
That was nice.
Yeah. So I think that closes my studies. When I look back, I think that was, I was fortunate to have those 2 courses in my life to kind of move the needle or move my direction to that place. And that was also part of my infrastructure for being an entrepreneur, obviously in the high-tech and startups industry. So I think, if we need to recap what I am or who I am, I think I don't love study. Like, I don't love school, never found myself in the right place, but I always did other things besides the school. I was very, very active and very into the Israeli Scouts and the youth organization and did a ton of like every position, every initiative I could do there. I put all my efforts. Like I remember myself sitting in the class and kind of writing projects for the other activities I had instead of doing homework. So I think that was a big part of it. The second was obviously my parents, the atmosphere in my house and the education that we got from them. And I think that obviously the new world, which relatively thanks to the IDC that I kind of learned about product management, UX, UI, that was like the infrastructure.
Amazing. I like that. And there's a few points that I want to touch before we move on to how you decided to go on with Quack, and maybe you have like some ventures before that. I want to touch on the point about don't like to study. I also am like that, very much like that. Growing up, even throughout elementary, I almost never passed a math exam, like never.
Yeah.
Like from grade 1 to grade 5, I can remember. And grade 6 in elementary, I almost got kicked out not because I'm bad. I'm a bad student. I like to run around, but in addition to that, I was also a bad student, and I get a bunch of complaints from teachers.
Yeah.
Because me and my gang, we like to run around, make havoc, and make a lot of mess. Until finally, in 7th grade, I decided, you know what, I need to change, so I started studying. But before then, I was like such a mess.
So all my 12 years, I never studied. I was the one doing the mess, and like literally, that was my story.
Yeah. And I like one thing about people that are like this. Today's society really tries to make people sit down and focus in class. I don't think that's really what humans are. There are people who will have a lot of energy and they will spend that energy outside of class. And this is why I like to do this. This podcast, by the way, it's not a requirement from campus at all. I just like to do it because I like to learn from people directly from the industry. This is, I think, the real education. Of course,
Amazing.
all the calculus and algebra are important, but I'm sure I'm gonna forget that in like a few months. But this podcast, and hopefully a lot of people who also listen to it, they can also gain a lot of value by learning from people like you from the industry, learning from your experience, and maybe relate. And in class they always listen about academics and things that are very very specific, but
Yeah.
stories are very important and experiences.
Amazing.
So that's one thing about bad students. And number two, I like your story with the Latin parents. As an Asian, I have very similar experiences. I must say. My parents did make me wash the car, but we didn't charge any money. So maybe my kids in the future, we will make them charge money so that they can make some money. So that's a good idea. But one thing I want to touch, and I don't think we have touched this in previous podcast episodes, is the effect of being an immigrant. Obviously, in Israel, as the theme and the culture is very, very entrepreneurial, especially because of the army, and that makes people also very mature. I want to listen about what's the additional effect, if you think there is, by being an immigrant.
So first of all, I want to touch something about, the atmosphere of entrepreneurship in Israel. That's something relatively new for the past 10 or 15 or 20 years. When I was a kid and my parents, I'm 34 years old. So when I was a kid, nobody talked about the startup nation and high-tech. That wasn't part of our life. And my parents, they never, my mother was a teacher, my father was a lawyer. That's it. That's my life. My brother played basketball after school. I went to the Tzofim with my sister. That's all. That's what we knew. So I think that, the startup nation is very much into people maybe today, obviously, IDC, obviously even much more than other maybe universities in Israel. And it's something that became very popular and maybe in fashion in the last, decade. At least from my perspective and from where I come from. My uncle is very, they have traditional businesses. I didn't came from high-tech or from startups. But I can say about immigrants, and it's not I never felt as an immigrant in Israel because I was 3 years old when I with my family. So I was born in Venezuela but raised in Israel, right?
Okay.
But I do think, and it's following an interview I had yesterday with a candidate for one of our sales position at Quack AI. By the way, we are hiring for different roles, software developers and sales and CSM. So if you want, you can talk with me later on. And he's an immigrant. He came to Israel, I think, 10 years ago by himself without any family. And one of the things that touched me in the interview was he explained that as an immigrant in Israel, you need to survive. You don't have the opportunity to fall in between the cracks or to, skip a few steps in the way because you will fall. Nobody will help you. You don't have family, you don't have friends, you're not even part of the community yet, sometimes. It's very hard to kind of to be an Israeli, the language, the slang, being in the army. Not everyone did the Israeli military. Maybe people came after the age, and that's very hard for immigrants. But I think that exactly that is some of the special thing about immigrants, that they don't have nothing to lose, but they can lose everything. And I know it's very it's weird to say it in the same phrase, but that's what I feel maybe my parents kind of did when they left everything they knew in Venezuela, a great and wealthy life with help, even a driver to kind of take us to school, everything in Venezuela, and came to Israel by themselves, no help, no parents, no grandparents, nothing, and started building their life on their 30s, 40s from scratch. That's insane. And that's entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah.
Right? You come from 0 to 1, and from 1 to 10, and from 10 to 100. And that's the I think the mentality that an immigrant can have, which can help him. So yeah, I think, it's probably inside my culture and my DNA, thanks to my family and my parents and, the immigration phase that we kind of did together.
That's wonderful. There's a lot of stories of people also who did Aliyah and really they have to rebuild their life.
Yeah.
And what's more similar to rebuilding life, like building a
Startup.
company,
Yeah.
right? It's the same thing. So let's go into your journey into entrepreneurship. You have finished IDC, you took this extra class.
Yes, I think that around my 20s, 20s, 25, whatever, in that decade, I always thought and always wanted to become an entrepreneur. Like that was the next dream after being an event producer or a pilot in the army. I said, okay, Startup Nation, amazing, cool. I see friends, I see stories. I feel inside myself that I need to do it. I don't know how, I don't know when, I don't know what I need to do, but I want to start doing that. So I started exploring. Like I started looking for people who did it. It attracted me. Like I met people who, I don't know, were previously founders and then become investors and sat with them for coffee. Whatever. Like I did whatever I could to kind of build my network or my infrastructure to be the entrepreneur that I wanted. But again, it's when I see myself back, I understand that I did that. In that time, it was very opportunist, a lot of luck, or a combination of luck and, things you did in life that connected dots that helped you along the way. Like, again, I have a small story, but it might be a pivotal moment in my life. Again, when I reflect back, maybe that's a great story. Like as part of the youth organization, working in the youth organization in Tzofim, I joined to a group who fly to Poland to do the journey of the Holocaust in Poland with a group of people who volunteered, adults around 50, 60 years old and 20 years old like myself. So it was a very, a different kind of group, different people, different ages. And one of the persons was the husband of one of the volunteers, and he joined the journey in Poland as well. And it became to be Izar Shai, if you know him. Izar Shai was the Nadav Kemper. It's like a minister in the Israeli government.
Yeah.
Before that, he was an investor in great, VCs. And before that, he was 3 or 2 times founder. And from nowhere, he joined the group of people. And from nowhere, he became to be one of the group members. And from nowhere, we had a very natural connection when we met. And I wasn't in startups. I didn't do anything related to entrepreneurship, but we met. We kind of in loved one with each other. And Izar was one of my, and Izar, I hope you will hear this podcast someday, became to be one of the, maybe, I won't say the fathers of Nadav's entrepreneurship story, but maybe, a very pivotal moment for me.
Right.
And I don't want to get too much into the details of specifically my relation with Izar and the things he did for me, etc. But that's only one story about other 20, 30, 50, 100 people that I probably met throughout my years when I was at my 20s.
Yeah.
And helped me structure or design my path for being an entrepreneur. Every person I met, every story, every people was another building block of that journey. And when I say journey, I mean even to get to 0, right? Because from 0 to 1, 1 to 10, that concept of, building a company. There is a moment in life where I felt that I'm in 0, and 0 is a very good place to be in. There are people that even don't understand their 0, their starting point.
Why is it a good thing?
Because you never start from 100 or 10. You always need to start from the first step. But even getting to the first step and understanding what should be the next step, the first step is something very difficult.
Right.
Some of the people wouldn't get to that step never.
Right.
So from my perspective, being able to find my 0 was a huge step in the way.
Yeah.
And I think a few years it took me to understand where should I start? Like, what's the entry point? What's the entry step? What's my 0? To start even walking to the 1.
Yeah.
From 0 to 1.
Yeah.
But until then, you're lost in
Yeah.
the space, looking for where is my 0? Where is the next or the one thing I need to do which will be a pivotal moment. So I think, again, going back to Izar's story, but multiplying it by 100 people, which helped me, guide me, gave me some inputs, shared their story, as you said before, like as part of the podcast, that was like the building blocks for starting what I did next.
There's a lot of very good points there. One thing I want to raise is that I've read somewhere that there's like a research that says most of the pivotal moments or lucky moments or serendipitous moments in life, in a person's life, is usually an encounter to another person, not a discovery of information or something like that, but meeting someone.
Interesting.
That's usually what changes a person's life immensely. So that's very interesting. And I really agree with what Scott Galloway, an American professor, he said, young people need to be outside as often as possible. Home is just for sleep.
Wow.
And that's it. You need to create as much collisions and like interaction and possibilities
Amazing.
for like meeting people
Definitely.
as much as possible.
Definitely. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, and that's why I really try to like also meet people through this podcast, and maybe this podcast can help people.
That's why you came
people.
to Israel.
Exactly, man. Exactly.
Yeah,
This is
that's
why.
your story.
That's my story. But also similarly, like if I may share a bit, just for my in my second year of Technion when I was studying there, I met a friend. We didn't knew much about each other. We just, close friends. But just because I met him during lunch in a cafeteria, he introduced me to someone who eventually became my co-founder. And it was just such a serendipitous moment.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have happened otherwise because we don't know each other that well.
Look, I don't want to, go too deep into different stories, but let's maybe, so we can move forward for Quack, the story about how I met my co-founder. That's, a nice story.
Yeah.
Going back again, I think that one of the things, and again, you heard in this podcast, and the people who know me knows that about my life, the one very strong thing in my life was the being part of the youth organization, that's Sofim. I don't know if that's clear enough from the podcast. I can talk about it hours later on. It's like a thing that always was part of my life, and even till today, like as a volunteer or as a grown up, I have a lot of things to to the youth organization that I've been part of. Long story short, after the military I worked there. Aviram, my co-founder as well, he was kind of like myself, part of the youth organization when he was young. He did the military. After the military, we kind of worked in the Tzofim as well. And in that Tzofim, you have one time a year that you go to a camp, like a big camp in the summer, like a summer camp in the forest. And there you build, amazing, like a camp with, ropes. And you do amazing things in the camp for around 10 days.
Yeah.
And I came to that forest to visit with another friend. And then I saw someone working on a laptop with Wi-Fi. And when I came closer, I saw him writing code in the forest. Like, what the fuck? Why are you with a laptop in the forest writing something on your computer, which I never saw even code like before that? Obviously, I was studying product management and design, but I never saw the back end of, software, whatever. And I met him and I said, okay, what are you doing? Like, I asked him a few questions. I saw he was building something for the camp, like visitors, like a software for visitors to come, whatever, I don't know. But I understood that there is something in that connection that would be interesting to explore. And I think 2 weeks later, I sent him like a WhatsApp saying, hey, what's up? I have a new idea. Let's meet and talk about it. Blah, 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 blah. Long story short, met for coffee, decided to start working together. 8 months later, we are post the first project that we did together, like the first startup. It was called Meaty. It was super exciting. We were, we thought we would change the world, building a software for managing meetings and summaries of meetings and, doing great stuff. As part of the entrepreneurship journey, you understand that you need to do a few things in order to get to that one thing that you want. So we didn't manage to make it a startup, but it was a good experience, and that's where we kind of bonded and decided that we want to work together. Long story short, we started post that first project, we still got to work together. We did a few projects aside. Everyone took his route into his professional. Like, I became to be a product manager, Aviram became to be a software engineer, and we on the days worked at our work, and on holidays, weekends, on the nights, we worked together on other projects, side projects. projects. And then in those 2 years, I would say 2 or 3 years, we worked together. We had built a small studio, like a squad as a service, brought some other software engineers and other product designer, and sold our services to other startups and companies. And that was kind of, part of the way to get, you remember what I said about the zero step? So that was part of the way to get to the zero. Even then, I didn't thought I started even the entrepreneurship. I obviously felt that I'm in the right direction, but it's not what I was aiming for. And we knew we need to do something else and something more than that. So we were always exploring. Every 2 or 3 months, someone brought a new idea to the table. I brought something and Aviram brought something, and we tried it, and we kind of created an MVP and went to the market and to friends and network, whatever, tried to do something. We knew that we will do it. We never knew what, when, and how it will become to be a company. 2 years ago, we want to talk about Quack, right?
Yalla.
So 2 years ago, one of the ideas kind of worked in some way. Again, I'm not yet in the zero step. Aviram brought an idea which he brought even before, and I said it before, I don't think it's something worth exploring. And then a few months later, we kind of, while working in other startups and with other companies, we kind of came across that problem. We started feeling in ourselves the problem of customer support. And I don't want to go too deep into that, but basically software and product companies, you have, let's say, a triangle of three important persons. One, the developers. Two, product managers or product, whatever. And three, the customer support, customer experience people. Those are the three personas or the triangle of three people which are for product companies, which are customer centric, are the most relevant ones for the customer experience. Developers will develop it, product will design whatever or set the standards, and the customer experience will be the ones to manage the relationship with the customers and be there when they have issues and problems. Long story short, we saw that the customer support agents and the customer support teams are lacking in everything, in data, in tools, in technology, in processes. Everything was old school. We were product managers, developers, we had tools, we had processes, we had podcasts, whatever, everything. But customer support people were under-tooled, whatever, everything. And we started asking why. Why is that? Why are you working with old school technologies, old school processes? We interviewed a bunch of people working in space. And again, I'm trying to kind of making a long story short, but the first step was to release something to the market. We had a new, in 2 weeks from that moment that we kind of understood that there is a potential problem out there, we released the initial version of Quack. Something very lean, very stupid, very ugly, that will become to be a one-click button to report about bugs. 2 lines of code you need to implement into your website. Quack will gather all the information for that session and open a ticket automatically. So instead of the user going to the website and opening a ticket, we will open the ticket automatically after the user click one button. Wow. It's I know
I can use that.
Yeah, but again, it was ugly, it was stupid, it's not a startup. But it was something to start discovering, or to start, as you said before, exploring and, making meeting the market.
Yeah.
I think, as fast as we could.
Yeah.
So that started as a nice project. We started getting nice traction, and we said, okay, interesting. Let's do more discovery. Let's go one more step. And I think around, I don't remember exactly, but I would say March of last year, 2020, we decided to go all in. Leave our positions as, full-time product manager, full-time developer, whatever. And we felt it was the right moment to leave everything aside and to go to that journey of entrepreneurship. And we never did it before. We never left our day-to-day jobs. And we didn't have even paying customers or something like that. It was pretty crazy. I fight with my wife in that time because, not fight, but, argued because she was what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, it's understandable.
No, I'm pregnant. We will have a child in a few months from now. Or, no, I already had. Like my baby daughter, she's today 2 years old. She was born a little bit before I started and left the job for Quack.
Yeah,
So my wife said, "You're crazy.
yeah,
You can't do that. Like, I know you want to do and be an entrepreneur, but not now. Like, why now? Why
yeah,
for Quack? Like,
right,
what's your thing? You're crazy."
right.
And I think that was some of the most difficult time in my journey. I would say very emotional, very difficult. I don't know if people talk about the hard times of being an entrepreneur. If you would ask me if I recommend being an entrepreneur, I would say no. Don't do that.
You're the fifth person in this podcast, I
Okay.
think, to say that.
So if 5 people already said it, I think it's right. I say the same, by the way, I didn't mention it, but when I was in the IDC, I raised a dog for the blinds. Like, the project of golden retriever dogs that you raise for 1 year
Yeah,
for blind. So I did that as well as part of my studies, which was amazing. But when people ask me, what do you think about raising a dog for the blind? Do you recommend? No, never. It's taking a dog, it becomes to be your best friend, and 1 year later you need to give him away.
yeah.
That's horrible. Don't do that. Like, literally, if someone thinks about doing that, don't do it. But again, it's like I'm torn between recommending and not recommending. So the same thing goes with entrepreneurship. Like, it's very hard. Very. Long story short, I think we kind of, March 2023 understood we're doing that. We're throwing ourselves into the wheels of the train or to the ocean, whatever, and let's do it. And a lot goes to the mentality of my co-founder, Aviram. I think we don't have time to talk about everything, but the one thing I can say, and all the people who knows Aviram and myself as partners can say about us, is our partnership. I think that's the strongest part of our entrepreneurship journey. At least at Quack, we became to be a very strong team. Like, we worked for 4 years before Quack together. That's, building
History.
an history and a DNA of people who become to be one. I can tell you, like, that I have a relationship with my wife, obviously, and a relationship with Aviram.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much, those are the two people in my life that are the most, relevant, or I would say in the center of my life. Long story short, I think, again, that became to be a reality for us in March, April. We found the best investors in Israel to believe in our story. They are not traditional as the VCs. You'd go with, a deck, present to them and get a $3 million check. No, that's not the story. We met with Guy Katsovich and Yair Vardi from Fusion VC.
It's coming next
Amazing.
episode.
Well,
Guy Katsov- yeah,
Amazing. So you need to tell him that I've been one episode before.
absolutely.
It was our first check. They believed in our story, in our partnership, as I said before. I don't know about the product, about the vision, that's something that came later on.
Yeah.
But they were the first to kind of believe in our story and to give us the opportunity to make it, like, our dream become a true thing, like a real thing. And that's pretty much what happened around mid last year, like mid 2023. We started the Fusion. It's like a program, 3 months, 2 months in Israel, Tel Aviv, 1 month, Silicon Valley, Los Angeles, New York, where you go with other startups to kind of, the adventure or the journey in the US to kind of explore the market. In the meanwhile, we met with other, like, I'm not telling all the story, but we did a lot of work to do a discovery around that problem. We talked with more than 150 companies in those days. All of them are VPs support, head of support agents, whatever, to understand their pain points.
This is spread in the US and in Israel, or just US?
Yes, both. All around the world. We managed to get to VPs in the biggest companies in the world: Facebook, Microsoft, SentinelOne, Fiverr, you name it. I think, again, 150 companies in the software product industry. We met with whoever we could, right? And again, I want to, attach it to what I said before in the podcast. I didn't have a network before. I don't know that much people in the industry, but you find your way. Like, that's, you need to do it. So you find a way to do it. But that was the infrastructure of Quack, let's say. And after doing a very deep discovery with the market, with the people, we felt that we are experts. I felt like I can manage a support team in every company you will give me, and my partner Aviram the same, because we met with 150 companies and we researched their support operations. We understood their pain points, what they do, what's their stack, that's crazy. I don't think there is a VP support out there who saw so much companies in such a short time, right? If I would tell you, go and try to find a position as a VP support in one of the best companies, whatever, you have experience of, 3, 5, 6 companies you worked before, right? But I had an understanding of how 150 companies work in that space. So we felt that we know very well the pain points, the opportunities, and I think that was the moment I get to step 0.
Mm-hmm.
June, July of 2023, I felt I started my journey as an entrepreneur because now I have my network. I have a big problem that I know because I talked with more than 150 people about their pain points. I have a big problem. I understand the market. I know and I have, let's say, enough to start. If you were asked to ask me when I think it started, it's there. Mm-hmm. That's like the pivotal moment around June, July, following my first check from Fusion, as I said before, following 150 meetings with potential customers. That's where we felt we are starting our journey to be a startup. Mm-hmm. Long story short, from there, a lot of things happened in the past year or so. War and, things in family and things in the company and between, everything. But we raised more than $3 million. Eventually, the team is now around 10 people, even growing from that. We are working with great customers in Israel and in the US market. I don't want to name drop too many names, but very familiar and very good software and product companies in the industry that are our partners, our customers. And, we are working very, very hard to, let's say, reinvent the support operations. We feel that we are the ones who need to help to those 150. As of now, it's already 300 because we talked with more. 300 people that we met, and none of them said, I love the support operations that I've built, or I love the ticketing system that I'm working with. Yeah. None of them. Yeah. There is no one VP support in the world that came, wake up in the morning and said, everything is good. I don't have any tickets or any work to handle. No one VP support like that. And we feel that we have the mission to help those people and help the VP support and head of support and the support teams to make their work 2.0, to make their work easier, smarter, use their data, and make their support operations smarter and efficient than what it is today and in the past decade or so. It's, a very one-leg story about Quack and how it became to be what it is today.
That's very cool. That's very cool. What sort of companies do you serve most?
Software and product companies which already have support operations. It could be companies such as Yotpo, such as Artlist, Fiverr, Monday. Those are the types of companies, and some of them are our customers already. They need to have a massive, let's say, approach to customers, like customer experience, and to provide customer support to their customers, obviously. Mm-hmm. And they need to already have support operations in place with data around their support ops. We basically integrate into their existing support operations, and we create a new way of managing your support ops using AI and user other technologies to make it more smarter and more efficient.
And you mentioned you are hiring, so what kind of people you are looking for, for those who are listening?
Yeah, so we are hiring now for 3 main positions. One is developers, software engineers. The second is sales, and the third is post-sales, like customer success managers. Mm. And I would say, I will use this opportunity to say that, and I have a few posts on LinkedIn about it. We are really not into titles or about experience. Like, I don't know if I need to hire a sales representative with 2 years experience or 10 years of experience. I don't care. Like, literally. Obviously that those are good indications of, people who did stuff, what they did, blah, blah, blah. But as you know, like, we never studied at school, so I can't share my biography and say, hey, I'm a great student. No, I don't care about that. What I care is that if you're a salesperson, you need to be able to sell yourself. You need to be able to pop up on top of every other candidate, and I need to see your CV, your message at LinkedIn. I need to see you getting my WhatsApp, sending me an email to my personal email. That's what I want to see if you're a salesperson, right?
Yeah.
Not like a very nice, very polite ChatGPT style of... And I got those. And again,
Right.
Sorry for the people. I'm not trying to kind of make fun of you, but that's what I'm looking for. And if you're a customer success manager and I need one very strong at Quack, I want you to know what's the product I'm building. You need to talk with me after you understand what would a customer of Quack need to get from a customer success manager. And if you talked with one of our customers even before talking with me, that's amazing. Ask him, what's going on with Quack? How is your, like, whatever you can do to be active.
Do above and beyond.
Above and beyond. I'm not looking, I can't look into 100 CVs and find or research all of them and understand. I can't.
Yeah.
But if one out of the 100 CVs will do that, what we said before, that's enough. We will meet, coffee, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, one more session to kind of understand his approach. That's it. We can fire a contract in 7 days. From the moment that we met the candidate, I promise you, in 7 days, he has a contract in hand. That's our promise.
You guys move fast, yeah?
Yeah, try to.
So one last advice for people who are trying to pursue entrepreneurship. We've mentioned before that it's difficult, it's hard, it's not recommended, but for those who are too hard-headed and they keep on going, what would you recommend so that they can brace themselves?
Wow, it's difficult to choose between a few things I think are important.
You can mention a few.
So I would say maybe two. And again, it's kind of recapping a few things we said in the podcast.
Yeah.
One of them is fail as fast as you can. You need to move fast. You need to be an elephant in how you say it in Hebrew, פיל בחנות חרסינה. It's like an elephant in a store of little, small pieces that can break. And you're an elephant and you move and break everything. It's even better you do that instead of not doing nothing. So when I mean fail fast, I mean you need to move very fast, but you need to move and you need to fail as fast as you can in order to proceed to the next challenge or to the next opportunity. Because if it takes you 2 years to fail, the competition will, win the race. If you fail in 2 weeks because you tried something and it was crazy, amazing. Now you have 11 months and 2 more weeks to do other stuff, right? So that's like the one thing I think is the most important. Like to fail fast, it means do things, do them as fast as you can, and don't be afraid of, failing.
Move fast and break things, yeah.
And the second thing I would say, and I suggest, and again I said it before, try to find your zero step. There is a great book, From 0 to 1, from 1 to 10, 10 to 100. That's like a very known approach for startups and building companies. But I think that the hardest part, for me at least, was to find my zero. Where should I be, or what should be the step, or how to even understand that you're in the zero step. And being in zero is a great place to be. People can, do their life, all their life, working on something that they never planned to do and, dreaming about doing something else, but they never did it.
Yeah.
So even starting from zero, but that that's your thing, amazing. Like I really appreciate people who do the hard work, don't skip steps and start from 0, 1, 2, 3. That's the way. I don't know other way. For me, it didn't work to kind of skip the steps and kind of do the shortcuts. It didn't work for me. If you have something to share and you know how to skip the steps, so amazing. But those are my 2 cents to people becoming entrepreneurs.
Man, Nadav, it's been amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it. And have a great rest of the day.
Thank you for coming.
Sure.